Hi everyone, my name is Maggie. Nice to see you again. I am one of the MSW students, currently a part of Finding Our Power Together. And this week, I'm going to be going through some of the material of what we're asking of you in our this week's activity. And I know over the last couple weeks, we've done a lot of thinking about how we're connected to others and the relationships that we're in and how we influence people and how people influence us. But we're going to take a little bit of a time out and just really reflect inward this week and think about how we talk to ourselves and how we relate to ourselves. So that brings me back to this idea of storytelling. Storytelling is a cultural way in which a lot of Indigenous peoples understand themselves and history. And even non-Indigenous people, we take in things from our lives, our cultures, traditions, our relationships, our communities, and they kind of get sucked inside and we talk to ourselves in an internal way. And it kind of helps us figure out who we are. The stories we tell can really influence our self-perceptions. So oftentimes, for most people, the way we talk to ourselves isn't as kind as the way we talk to others or those who we hold close. And in fact, the way we talk to ourselves, kind of on the low key, influence how we interact with others. If we have negative feelings towards ourselves, sometimes they can spill out, when we're in relationships with others. So we really want to get a hold on how do we feel about ourselves? What are the stories we tell? What do we narrate to ourselves in our minds? This week, we're going to take a bit of time to really get to know that little voice. And what we talk about is called talking back and talking forward. So these are two ways which we can try and establish some self-compassion when things get hard, when life just isn't kind of where we want it to be, and also helpful when reflecting on the past, right? Some things that have happened to us and now shape who we are. So we're going to be talking about these two things, talking back and talking forward. Talking back is kind of noticing that little critic in your head that I was talking about. When you can speak so kindly to someone you care about, but when you do something, it might be like the smallest thing. That little voice comes in and might say, yeah, you're not good at anything, or you're kind of worthless. It can say some really harsh stuff. So we want to kind of flip the script on that little voice and talk back to it. And the way we do this is we want to make sure we're not yelling at this little voice. We don't want to be like, get out of here, right? Because it's filled with aggression, and it's actually, we don't want to yell at that voice. We want to show compassion for that voice because it's coming from somewhere, right? When we mess up and say, I'm not good at that, we have to think, who's saying that? Who in my life has said that to me? And why is it stuck in my brain now? Or what have I experienced that made me not feel that way, that I'm not good enough, right? So we want to be gentle with this voice. Okay, the second piece, like I said, that little voice can impact the ways in which we communicate with others. So that's where talking forward comes in. Sometimes talking back can be really hard, right? It's not as simple as being like, oh, I'm not good enough. Let me just acknowledge that voice and talk back. It's difficult. Some of the things we've been through are really tough. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes years of practice. Every day you have to remind yourself that voice is there and just try and show it kindness. Try and show it warmth. So this talking forward comes in. If talking back might seem a bit too hard, to be honest, it's difficult. So we can talk forward. Basically, when we can find that little voice and think about, well, what would I say to a friend if a friend came to me and said, you know what, Maggie, I just don't feel good enough. I probably wouldn't respond with, yeah, you're right, you're not good enough. I would instead be like, oh, I'm sorry. That hurts me to hear you say that. You are enough. You're strong. I've seen you get through the hard things. So we really want to channel that voice, and we want to talk forward. So when we can't be kind to ourselves, we're going to try and enact it on other people, because these guys, they work together. If I could talk in a positive way, compassionate way towards others, it makes me feel good. It makes me kind of absorb that goodness, and vice versa. When I could talk to my critical voice in a compassionate way, then it translates to others, because I can see more readily the softness, empathy, the kindness, and the struggles that they're going through. Talking back, we're going to try and give that little voice a piece of our mind and say, get out of here, in a gentle way. And talking forward is when we take the things that we would say to a friend, we share them with our community. So that might be like a mantra, like, you are enough, you are strong. And we're going to give it to the world, put it in the community, post it, write about it, share it with a friend, text it to someone. So first, you can grab your reflective journal and think about how you would speak to someone you love, who you care about. So think about someone in your life who you hold close, maybe a close friend. I know I often talk to my girlfriends and things like that, and I'm much gentler with them about situations that they're in compared to the situations I'm in. So step one, I want you to think about a situation in your life that might have shaped you, right? Because we talked about our culture, our experiences, the people in our lives shaping us. So we want to think, what's a situation in my life? It can be positive or negative, right? It's really important to pay attention to the positive experiences because they also fuel that little voice that says like, hey, you are really good at this. So you can start with a positive one. I recommend that if just hearing me talk about this feels a bit big right now. Start with a positive one or a negative one. Then step two, I want you to write the situation. And there's a left-hand box or just make a little column in your journal. But you're going to write the story of you in third person. So you're going to be like, if I were writing it about me, I'd be like, Maggie went to the store. Maggie experienced X, Y, and Z. It was hard for her, right? You're going to write this out. I'm writing a story about me, about this situation. And if you can draw a column. And then on your left column, you can write like inner voice or thoughts. And I want you to just try your best. It's hard to multitask. But as you're writing your story, so this happened to Maggie. Right? She experienced this hard thing. Now, when you're writing it, you might notice that little voice start to talk, right? And that's what we want to clue in on. When is that little voice coming up? What does it say, right? We got to get a hold on what it sounds like because oftentimes we shut it out. We don't even realize it's there. So what we're trying to do is get used to hearing that voice, maybe a little louder, and really listen to what it's saying. What is it telling you about yourself? So when you're writing your story, the whole time if you can, on this left-hand column, if you're noticing that voice getting loud, saying I'm not good enough, or this story's stupid, all these judgments, even if they're positive, write them down. Because what we're trying to do is track what it's saying to us. You want to write it down as best you can, verbatim, write word for word, okay? So once we've done that, take a look at our story, maybe read it through once, and then I want you to look at your critical column, or these judgments or thoughts you had on this side. And all these negative thoughts, I want you to picture how would you ever say that to a friend, or how you might say that to a friend, or if you would at all. You can cross it out if you want. You can circle the things that speak most to you or when the voice was the loudest, right? After you take a look at this critical column, you're circling things, maybe the loudest voice, I want you to now picture that person that we talked about in the beginning reading you this story, right? Someone you care about, inserting their name instead of yours. Read that story as if that was a gift to you. They were like, listen, I need to talk to you about this thing. It's too hard to talk about in person. I wrote it down. And I want you to, again, in a different box or somewhere in your journal, maybe with a different color pen, write down how you might respond to all those critical thoughts that were previously written down. So this happened to Maggie. I wrote, I'm not good enough, right? If you were reading that, how might you respond to me? Would it be, that's not true? I don't believe that about you. That hurts me when you say it, right? We're trying to work on how we might respond to a friend. So I want you to take these positives or these kind of reframing of these negative thoughts, and I want you to sit with them for a minute. Put on a timer, anything you want, a minute, 60 seconds. I want you to sit there and read them. Kind of let them sink in. It might be hard too. We're not very good as people taking compliments. It's quite difficult. And plus, we're rewriting the story that's been in your mind for how many years? Some important people might have told you these things. So just try your best to sit with it. 60 seconds. I want you to select one or two, and I want you to rewrite that phrase, that kind of reframing or more positive way or how you might respond to a friend 2 times. I want you to write it out 2 times or go look at yourself in a mirror. It sounds totally cheesy, but it works. So go look at yourself in the mirror and say it. Or just sit alone in a room and say it out loud. It feels good. That voice inside is really loud, and when we combat it with our voices, it talks back, right? It feels good. Maybe not at first, but hopefully with a little practice, we can make some moves. And like I said, try and start with a positive story if some of these negative stories that feel shaped you are too big. And even though this is a week 5 activity, try and do it when you notice. Every time you notice, be like, I know you. Talk back, and remember, like, talking forward too. And that's gonna be a part of our photo challenge this week, is to take something and talk forward with it. So this week, in line with our reflection about talking back, we're also doing a talking forward photo challenge. So you can use your Canva app, and we want you guys to create an image. Some kind of like cool combination. You can use text, you can use pictures. Get creative, right? Because what we talked about, this inner voice, it takes a lot to combat it, right? And this time we're sharing that positive kind of mantra or inner voice with others. We want to share encouraging words with the people we love. And this might be a bit easier. We want to share in community. We want to like pull together, right? We want to find our power together. So that's part of this. So some things that I like to think about, some of my personal mantras I'll share with you guys are: your best is always enough. I'm enough. I'm strong enough. I can do it. They're very targeted towards me. So feel free to do that as well. But also we are putting this in the community. So even think about incorporating others. We are strong. We are enough. Whatever works best for you. We are going to do a little bit of a recap on week 5, talking back and talking forward. So you've already watched your tutorial on YouTube about talking back and talking forward. We have our reflective journal, our talking back exercise, where you are going to picture a situation in your life, positive or negative, that you feel has shaped you. We're going to have you write a story in the third person. So example, Maggie went to the store, right? And on the second column, we're going to talk about and try and isolate all of the inner thoughts that we have. Once we have that story, we're going to pretend like a friend gave us this story, that we're reading a situation that we went through. Once we've read this story, we're going to try and flip the script a little on what we tell ourselves and our perspective on who we are. And we're going to take what this critical voice said and kind of flip it. What would we say to someone? Probably in a more positive light. Once we have that written out, like, you are enough, you are okay, that really hurts me to hear you say that. We're going to take that and we're going to say it back to ourselves. Say it back to ourselves, write it back to ourselves, scream it out to ourselves, whatever works. And then once we're done the activity, our last step is to submit our photo challenge this week. And that's where we get into the talking forward activity. So you're going to use your app on Canva. You're going to create any kind of creative thing you want. You can use text, images, get wild with it. You're going to submit it to Instagram, Facebook, or the FOPT email. And I can't wait to see your posts. This post is about sharing those positive mantras, those positive things, and talk forward into our community to help us bring everyone together and use our power together. Thank you so much. Bye.